Compare a standard blue-chip stock to an over-the-counter microcap. One flows with constant depth. The other stutters and breaks apart into isolated, erratic data points. Modern equities trading assumes that a share represents fractional ownership of a business and that the mechanics of trading that share remain constant regardless of the ticker symbol. Regulatory reality and market data prove this assumption is false. Not all public equities operate under the same market physics. To protect the broader financial system from these toxic assets, institutions use a market quarantine, a multi-tiered framework designed to isolate microcaps. This quarantine is built from 3 distinct layers: broker-level margin algorithms, SEC sales practice regulations, and exchange-level listing purges. The $5 threshold acts as a hard-coded systemic tripwire. It dictates how a security is traded, leveraged, and maintained the moment its price crosses the line. If penny stocks are inherently high risk, overvalued, or subject to pump and dump schemes, why don't efficient market participants simply short them to zero? Efficient market theory suggests overvalued assets should face immense short-selling pressure to discover their true intrinsic value. This theory fails here because it ignores the physical plumbing of the market. To execute a short sale, a trader must satisfy strict mechanical requirements. Borrowing a share to short it requires the use of margin collateral. You cannot bet against a stock unless a broker allows you to use leverage to secure the loan. If an asset is stripped of its margin eligibility, it becomes structurally insulated from short-selling pressure. Normal price discovery effectively stops. Federal Reserve Regulation T sets the baseline for margin trading. It requires an initial deposit of 50% of the total purchase amount to buy or short a security on margin. FINRA Rule 4210 adds a second layer, requiring that you maintain at least 25% equity in that margin account at all times. These are merely the minimum standards. Individual brokerages often enforce much stricter policies, crushing the federal minimums to protect themselves from market volatility. Firms like Fidelity calculate margin requirements by assessing risk at the level of the individual security. They analyze a security's price, historical volatility, the number of outstanding shares, and current liquidity levels. Sub-$5 securities inherently trigger alarms across these risk metrics due to their erratic trading profiles. The mechanical outcome is a total lockout. The broker's proprietary risk algorithm immediately strips the security of all margin eligibility to prevent counterparty default. Accounts trading these stocks must maintain 100% cash equity. Leverage is entirely removed from the equation. By revoking margin, brokerages effectively ban short selling on microcaps. They create a unidirectional liquidity vacuum where only long positions are easily executable. The origins of this quarantine trace back to historical SEC intervention, not just modern brokerage algorithms. In 1989, the SEC formalized the quarantine of low-priced equities. This was a response to rampant broker misconduct in the non-NASDAQ over-the-counter markets. This regulatory shift centered on SEC Rule 15c26, the definitive legal framework that categorized these assets for the first time. The rule targeted any equity security priced below $5, issued by a company with less than $2 million in net tangible assets. Rule 15c26 imposes severe sales practice requirements on broker-dealers. It makes recommending these assets to retail investors administratively difficult. Brokers can only bypass these hurdles for established customers, clients with a year of account history or 3 documented purchases in designated securities. For new customers, brokers must obtain written information regarding the client's financial situation and investment experience before a trade can happen. The broker is also required to prepare a written statement of suitability for each purchase by a new customer, which the customer must sign. These administrative hurdles act as a deliberate chokehold on retail solicitation, making high-pressure sales tactics nearly impossible to scale. SEC Rule 15c26 starves the asset class of casual retail liquidity. Demand cannot be easily manufactured through traditional brokerage channels. Beyond federal rules, major exchanges like the NASDAQ use their own self-regulatory mechanisms to purge decaying companies. Exchanges enforce hard price floors to maintain institutional credibility and protect investors from listing toxic assets. The Nasdaq minimum bid price requirement is $1. If a stock drops below this line for 30 consecutive trading days, it triggers a deficiency notice. This notice officially warns the company that they are at risk of being delisted from the exchange. Historically, companies could stay listed during 2 separate 180-day grace periods to try and regain compliance. During these windows, failing companies almost exclusively relied on a specific loophole, the reverse stock split. A reverse split allows a company to consolidate its shares, instantly leaping the price back above the $1 threshold to reset the clock. The company's fundamentals rarely change. The split is an accounting trick that almost always precedes continued price decay. In October 2024, the SEC approved a new Nasdaq rule change specifically designed to close this loophole. Under the new rule, if a company executes any reverse split and falls back below $1 within 1 year, they receive an immediate delisting determination. All grace periods are denied. Most importantly, the security is suspended from trading during the entire appeals process. Market access is cut off instantly. Major exchanges now rapidly sever these illiquid equities from the national market system, forcing them off the main board and into the shadows. This 3-tiered sieve creates a permanent divide in the market ecosystem. Brokerages remove the margin, the SEC chokes off retail demand, and exchanges purge the listings. The assets that survive this process eventually land in the OTC and pink sheets graveyard. The graveyard is defined by massive bid-ask spreads and the total absence of institutional support. Analyzing a blue-chip stock is a study in cash flows and business strategy. Analyzing a microcap is an exercise in technical forensics. Participating in the sub-$5 market is not an investment in business growth. Survival here requires a deep understanding of market microstructure, regulatory timelines, and liquidity vacuums. The sub-$5 quarantine reveals a critical market reality. An asset's price dictates the laws of financial physics that govern its existence.